In addition to Ms. Alonso's welcoming us to these grant opportunities, some of the background information is, I'm probably sure everybody watching this is aware of the increasing interest in local regional foods, direct access. The growing interest presents many new opportunities where we can either strengthen some of our existing food systems, maybe even identify new pieces of a food system. We'd like to remind folks or let you know for the first time that these Ag Marketing Service grants are here to support innovative solutions to the issues facing our food system today. Now remember, the LFPP is one of the tracks of funding available through this program. Let's talk about the LFPP program a little bit. It is slightly different than the MFPP program, although both programs, the overarching desire from AMS is to increase domestic consumption of locally, regionally produced food. With the LFPP program, there's two tracks we can put our projects under there. One is the planning grant application process or the implementation project process. If we're talking about a planning grant, these are typically projects where we're trying to develop a concept, test its feasibility, do a little bit of background market research. The LFPP planning grants have a $5,000 minimum request and a maximum $25,000 ask. These are 12-month grant periods, and the LFPP program, no matter if it's a planning grant or an implementation grant, has a 25% match required. What this means to potential project directors is that of the total project funds, the applicants are expected to have, required to have 25% match either in kind or cash. The second type of grant available under the Local Food Promotion Program is an implementation grant. These are used to establish or expand a local regional food business that's currently in operation. Some of the examples we've seen in the past of successful projects, it's been about outreach, working capital, training needs. One of the important considerations for potential applicants for this track of money is that for the current application cycle, these grants have a $25,000 minimum ask with a maximum of $100,000, and the granting period is slightly different than the planning grants in that these can be up to 2-year projects. But again, remember, all LFPP projects have a 25% match requirement. The second track of money available under this USDA Ag Marketing Service funding stream is the Farmers Market Promotion Program. This differs from the LFPP program in that the LFPP program is for intermediaries in our local and regional food system, and the FMPP, the Farmers Market Promotion Program, is for direct-to-consumer marketing projects. This funding stream, again, is somewhat different than the LFPP programs. For the Farmers Market Promotion, the direct-to-consumer projects, that has a $15,000 minimum ask with a $100,000 cap. And again, it's a 24-month grant period maximum. It's important for potential project applicants to understand the distinction between the Local Food Promotion Program application and a Farmers Market Promotion Program application. We'll remind you that the LFPP projects are for intermediaries. We're going to distribute, we're going to store, we're going to process. So if our project is about intermediaries in the food system, then we're eligible to make application. And also recall that under the LFPP program, there's either a planning grant for developing a concept or an implementation grant for actually putting the project on the ground. Or we could perhaps apply for the Farmers Market Promotion Program track, but we need to remember these are for direct-to-consumer marketing. So the LFPP is for intermediaries, Farmers Market Promotion Program, the FMPP is for direct-to-consumer marketing, and for all the AMS grant projects, for an application to be considered for funding, it must benefit more than one individual. Because of this distinction between the two different tracks of LFPP and MFPP, we're showing you this decision tree. The first point in the decision tree is, does your project support the local and regional food system? If your answer is no, well, then you are ineligible to pursue these grants. You perhaps want to look elsewhere for grant funds. If your project does support local regional food systems, then you may apply. Once we've decided we fit the criteria to apply, then we need to also follow the right track for application. If our project is about intermediaries in the supply chain, we're under the LFPP program. If our project is about direct-to-consumer marketing, we need to be applying under the FMPP program. Just some examples of successful projects last year. These are not meant to limit your thinking, but rather to get your brain juices going, so expand more broadly some of the opportunities available to get projects funded. As potential applicants, you may want to understand the project scoring criteria. All applications are categorized by the AMS staff in Washington, D.C. Then there's parceled out to reviewers. Reviewers come from 4 different regions in the U.S., and reviewers are not allowed to look at projects for review from their own region. And they're given a checklist or a scorecard of how to approach gauging the potential fundability of submitted applications, and their scoring is based on these 5 criteria. The purpose of a project is fairly important, and here it's best if the applicant can write clearly and concisely what the need is in the food system community their project is wishing to serve. We need to be very clear on the objectives and goals. Do they align with what the AMS request for applications describes as the objectives and program goals? And are the outcomes identified clearly described? Our approach is the next series of criteria our potential project application is scored on. Again, it comes back to our ability to write well. There's a 12-page maximum for our application documents. It is to our benefit if we can write clearly, eliminating fluff. Can we describe the ability of our project personnel to deliver what we've promised in our proposal? And is our project actually realistic? And is there a real opportunity that we'll be able to meet our goals and objectives? There are definite items that are allowed to be requested funded through the AMS funding streams. There are items that are not allowed to be requested or funded by the AMS funds. This is clearly described in the request for applications. The reviewer has to decide, are the items that are requested in the budget, are they allowed, and are they reasonable? And do they clearly relate, again, back to the goals and objectives of the project? AMS is using federal tax dollars to fund these projects, and they have an expectation, as you might expect, to get some kind of a return on their investment. This is can be correlated, in my mind anyway, with the impact that we expect to get from our project. So the reviewer has to decide, are the impacts of this potential project being funded, are they clearly described? Does the applicant have a description of how they're actually going to measure any potential impacts? And the reviewer is also going to look for what are the quantitative and the qualitative metrics going to be used as this project is evaluated for its return on investment. There's also an outreach component for the reviewers to score. This has to do with publicizing the project in the development stages so that your project partners or potential project participants are aware of what's going on. It's also an outreach publicity, let's say, in the implementation phase of your project, so folks are aware of what's happening in their community. And then there's also an outreach component of how the project results or impacts are going to be distributed or made aware in a wider community once the project is completed. It is expected that each applicant will have a clearly defined, described outreach program. As we think about the evaluators looking at our potential project application documents, just remember they maybe don't know as much about the project as you do. They're bounded by their scoring criteria. One of their main objectives is to see if your project team has a capacity to meet the goals you've set out in your project. And just maybe try to put yourself in the evaluator's shoes a little bit. They're trying to decide the big so what question. Should you have your project funded? will it actually return a significant or expected return on investment for the fundings used? It is, these projects have been going on for a few years now, or several years now, and some of the low-hanging fruit as far as a project has already been achieved. It might serve you best if you can describe your project or develop a project that is innovative, is able to be duplicated elsewhere, has a impact in the farm community, food system community once your grant funds have expired, and describe as best you can how your project will live on after the AMS involvement is concluded. And remember, as a reminder, projects must benefit more than one entity. We list here some of the eligible entities that have applied in the past, and again, this is not a list meant to limit your thinking, but a list to get you thinking more broadly about your entity specifically is allowed to apply, but also some of the entities around you that might be impacted by your project that you could consider to be project partners. To date, AMS and others believe the applicants for this program have barely scratched the surface of all the project concepts that are available for funding. So we thank you for watching Module 1, the overarching description of the AMS food marketing, local food promotion programs. We want to encourage you to watch the remaining 3 modules to more fully develop your grant writing skills, but also be sure to visit the project website, amsta.net, for additional information and resources and an opportunity to sign up for electronic notifications of change or updates to this project.